there used to be this huge truth, but also stereotype that millennials were the ones who were the most willing to spend their money on experiences. And they weren't the ones saving their money. They wanted to just go travel the world when no one else was.
Hey, Arielle, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing well. So happy to be here.
Absolutely. We're going to talk today about one of the things that I like the most, traveling, right? And, how, travel influencers, and I'm pretty sure that you've been places and, things, about traveling, right? So quite excited about this episode.
Oh, totally. Wanderlust speaks my language.
Amazing. I love it. I'm very curious to learn more, not just metrics, but also like some tips and tricks and things like that, right? So, but before we get started, for everyone listening today, we have this little, way to get introduced, for the audience and guests, the guests to the audience, and it's called MAP. So basically, it's divided in 3 different sections, right? So the first one is the mission, then is the achievements and the purpose. So the first one is going to be what do you want to achieve and aim to achieve. The second one is going to be any notable milestone about it, either your career or life or both. And the last one is why do you do what you do.
So my biggest mission and the reason why I went into the world of marketing is finding ways to not only connect with people, but also contribute to new ways to make their lives better to some degree and hopefully put a smile on their face along the way.
Nice.
When it comes to proud accomplishment, honestly, I would say all of the work I have been able to do since stepping into Delta Vacations and working their social media marketing for almost 2 years now, being able to take their content to the next level. I'm honored enough to be able to capture Come Along With Me journeys around the world to show our audiences what that whole vacation experience is like, considering it is such a hot trend in social media these days, and being the woman behind the camera to bring that to life for our audience is a very much pinch me kind of moment, dream come true. And remind me again what the third question
what is the purpose? What do you do?
Okay. So purpose for my role is really trying to spark that wanderlust that I have inside of my heart to all of our current and potential customers in the work that I do for them. And then when I would say my purpose as a LinkedIn creator, it would be to help educate the world on a greater scale of what marketing and social media marketing is today, the changes that have happened, especially since the pandemic, and finding ways to help educate people further on not only what I do behind the curtain, but also ways that they can help to improve their brand marketing across the board as I dive in deeper and deeper to studying these audiences across the board.
Amazing. Well, sounds like a really good purpose and also dream job, right? Traveling and, making the sacrifice, right, for all of us to taking videos, right, and recording of beautiful
yes.
right?
The difficult sacrifice.
Thank you for your service on that. Jokes apart. So, I wanted to start, before we get into, of course, influencers and content creators and so on, let's talk a bit more about, the travel industry, right? We all know what happened with COVID, right? All flights got canceled. Many countries were basically, got into and everything. So I don't want to talk about the past. I don't like talking about that really terrible times that we had. But what is happening now? So are we go back to 100%? Is it actually more than before because people want to travel and try to, get some of the time that they lost in the past year? So tell us a bit more about that.
For sure, by far, the numbers are exceeding the charts with how many people are traveling. And what's interesting, even though we don't like to talk about the past, sometimes it's important to reference. I will say there used to be this huge truth, but also stereotype that millennials were the ones who were the most willing to spend their money on experiences. And they weren't the ones saving their money. They wanted to just go travel the world when no one else was. And then the pandemic hit and we all sunk into this reality of, wow, there can be a point in time when you're not even allowed to spend that money and go experience the world for yourself, because travel as a experience is not just an opportunity to get away and have a break from work, but it's a chance to learn about the world around you, other countries, their cultures, to immerse and hopefully find out some more things about yourself along the way. So through that time that we were all locked up, more generations, younger and older, realized the second I get the green light, want to go and book that trip that I said I would always do but never did. And we are not only seeing that in the bookings, but people more than ever are capturing on social media marketing content, whether they are just basic travelers or they are brands or influencers, what those vacation tips and tricks are looking like. So it's getting people even more intrigued to find reasons to go out and explore the world. And I mean, who doesn't want to go on vacation? We all need it. It's a refreshing moment. But I will say, travel's back. It's better than ever. And it's only going up from here.
Are you also feeling there are any challenges when it comes to managing like a social media for a travel brand, such as like Delta Vacation? Is it anything that you encountered so far? Or is it like usually really smooth? It is just more about opportunities?
I would say a challenge that you're always faced with is making sure of two things. Mm-hmm. One, you are offering your consumers something different than anybody else. The travel industry has a lot of things to highlight with itineraries, whether it's opportunities for guests to go on certain tours or see certain hotels. Maybe you offer a hotel that someone else does, but what makes the way in which you set up the story for them different? And you really want to face with the community building opportunities that you have, because it's one thing to speak to your followers and tell them about all of the opportunities around the world, but another is building a community in which they not only come to you for all things travel advice or all things booking experience worthy, but finding a space where they find other followers who relate to them in some way. They potentially both like to travel to Europe and they give little tips and tricks. We find some of the largest organic engagement actually on Facebook statuses that I create. And I like to help to work towards that community building through asking our followers questions. It helps to understand what you want to see more of, what you want to share, your insights on your experiences, because through that, that's something special you can come back to on any day. You want to find the way to solve the issue that a lot of social media accounts, even outside of the travel agency, might find who sell products. It's why should I have a reason to keep following you and your content and engage in the day-to-day after I've purchased the item when I might not do that again for several months? And it keeps them coming around through educational purposes and also through shareability of the content that we put out.
And, you said, about, Facebook, for example, right? And because, many times people think about, let's say, Instagram, right? For traveling because of the polished content that you can find there, this amazing video that you like, you fell in love with a place, just text a video. And then, of course, like, there is TikTok as well. But again, you said like, Facebook. So I'm curious, like, how does it change, like, the type of video that you can do? Like, do you think that you've seen like different type of videos that have been on the social media? Or like primarily brands and influencers are basically like, shooting the same video and they're repurposing on different social media accounts?
So you definitely have to use different video for different platforms. And for Instagram, I mean, putting aside basic dimensions of what they visually should look like, people expect more of that Pinterest aesthetic when going on Instagram. And when it comes to a platform like TikTok, the key there is more scroll stopping moments. And by that, I mean, it's a reason that visually jumps out at you to say, wait a second, I'm not going to keep scrolling. I want to stop and read, see, and hear what this video has to share in this moment. And that is something you have to do on a platform that is so video heavy, because why do they have a reason to pay attention to your content? Whereas Instagram, there's a little less of a rush. Of course, they're scrolling. It's natural. That's what the platform is all about. But you have to captivate attention maybe a little later than the first 2 seconds. You have a little bit more patience in that space. So you have to keep that in mind.
Hello! Is your brand ready to amplify its reach? Well, the Influencer Marketing Factory is here to do just that. We are a global influencer marketing agency helping brands ignite their growth, from influencer identification to campaign strategy, handling legalities and agreements to managing shipping and logistics. We have it all covered. We work with hundreds of brands across different verticals, from Fortune 500 companies to DTC brands. And we don't just stop there. With detailed ROI analysis, we help brands like yours measure success, transforming impressions into actionable conversions. You can find us at the influencermarketingfactory.com or just search the Influencer Marketing Factory on Google.
And also, I mean, like on Instagram stories, for instance, it's this ephemeral content, right? So 24 hours is gone. But at the same time, I like sometimes to follow some people that are traveling on social media, because it's not just the polished content, but maybe just them going from one place to the other, trying new food, and they do like so many stories one next to the other. They feel like, again, so, unpolished and so like real that I think that you need both, right? You need like, the polished content just to show maybe, a location, amenities of a hotel and so on. But at the same time, also you want to see maybe you like what you can actually expect, right? Because the worst that can happen is maybe this, you go to a place and then it doesn't like, reality versus, right? Social media, right? You don't even want that, because then it's gonna backfire. So do you have like any suggestions on that for, again, brands and influencers to do a bit of a combination of this type of content?
Yes, we've definitely found, even in ad campaigns, that people do respond better to pieces of content that look more organic.
Mm-hmm.
If it's too perfect and too polished and too corporate, you can tell, you can sniff out the BS very fast.
Mm-hmm.
And people want real and unfiltered, because that's what the world really is about. And I think also, leaning back into what you were saying on how videos might change on every platform, finding different parts of the social media outlets and utilizing them to your benefit to the umpteenth degree. So on Instagram, yes, you might make a really cool Wanderlust inspired video that goes on your feed, but how are you taking it to the next level of showing that journey on your stories? You want to use that to take them to the next level on the travel journey of, these are the in-between moments that you want to see. And we've found too that most people are not looking for the stereotypical recommendations that everybody knows about. If you know you're going to Rome, everyone will say, go to the Colosseum. Obviously, it's something to list. Obviously, it's something to be seen. But people really want recommendations these days that locals would give, that are sort of the behind-the-scenes hidden gems that you can only find more out about through people's recommendations. And that's what people take to social media to do. So that's a huge way to stand out. But another way to take your content to the next level, especially when it comes to SEO, people are using travel opportunities within social media now more than ever before, but they're using places like TikTok, Instagram to look at location tags and see what those recommendations are. But the content that's being put out, you have two pillars you have to focus in on: savability and shareability. When they know, okay, Delta Vacations just put out a post that gave me a really cool itinerary of things I could do in Barcelona, but I know I'm not going to Barcelona for another 6 months. I'm going to save this and come back to it when I go travel there. Or if they know their friends are all going on a group trip to Los Cabos, then they say, okay, I'm going to share this itinerary or this tip of this amazing restaurant that they posted about and send it in our group chat. There's the shareability factor. So when you want to maximize your reach on any level, I always recommend thinking about what would give you a reason to save or share this post. And that doesn't have to be the case with every post. But again, go back to the educational pieces and make sure that you're peppering them into your feed equally, because again, that's what keeps followers coming more and more, especially when they're not traveling or necessarily have an agenda yet in mind.
And is there any type of like format that goes well? Like I saw many that is like, 5 things that you have to do in New York in a weekend, or, little hidden gem that, so is there also like something that works better than others? I mean, list of places, of course, it works pretty well, but is there anything else that you either suggest or something that you personally like?
That's a good question. You want to be not too overwhelmed. Don't give them 20 pieces of advice in one post, but breaking it down. If there's one that deserves to have more detail as you go in depth on the importance of why they should do perhaps this one tour or experience pasta making in Florence. That might in and of itself ask to be one post because there are a lot more components that go into it. But if you have 5 museum recommendations for Paris, you don't need to go into detail of all the reasons why. Just list those out as the simple 5. But think about what's the story I want to tell about this one thing to do or these 7 things of importance, and can you break it down in simpler forms? If so, do so.
And so like, in addition, of course, like, to content, right? Because of course, when it comes to traveling, image and video is everywhere, right? Again, you want to like, just like having a vision of like where you're going to go, having a sense and a feeling of that. You want to somehow, put and place yourself in that place. So of course, how you make the video, how you edit it, how you distribute it, it's crucial. But in addition to the, again, the pleasant and eye-catching videos, something that also is important for the marketers listening, of course, is metrics, right? And insights. So is there anything that you either, collected, something that you find very interesting in the travel industry and travel influencers that you can share with us today?
Researching in marketing is so important because it gives you a leg up in understanding your audience, whether you're currently targeting them now or you have a goal to target them in the future. And people do not realize the weight that social media currently carries of importance in the travel industry. Because through a lot of studies, we're seeing 60% of Gen Z and 40% of millennials have reported that they will utilize social media for travel purposes. And if that doesn't sell itself immediately, I don't know what would. Even though a lot of people will, or companies will assume that they should just be focusing in on older crowds, thinking, well, they have the money to spend and they're further in their career. Again, the young generations want to do it and they have savvy ways to save money and go about their travels in a way that allows them to still experience the world. So don't ignore them. There is very much an audience there who wants to be a part of it all. Also, 89% of US vacationers have checked their social media during their most recent leisurely trip. Why that is important to think about. Even if you are a local business who wants to target a vacationer to come your way, think about the weight that paid ads carry in that space when you know that they're over in your region. It can really help to bring more business your way. Also, 75% who use social media platforms are using them to, like we were saying, have that search to make those travel plans and fill out their itinerary ahead of time, even if they're looking up one thing. So being able to give back to what we were saying on savability and shareability, give those reasons, focus in on who you're targeting because they are there. You just have to give them more reasons to keep showing up.
It's interesting what you say about, younger generation that can still travel. That makes me think about all these experts of like credit cards, points, find a ways, right, to still travel, right? Maybe I don't say like on a budget, but trying to like, use everything possible. So even if you don't necessarily have like, all the cash at that time, but you can still find ways, right? I'm pretty sure also like, that vacation has like, partnerships, right, with different again partners out there to find the best deal, right, and use different points and it transfers and so on. So again, I'm not that technically expert on that, but I feel that it helps, and that helps like for people traveling, right? Again, even if they're like younger, right? So, is there anything else like that you're noticing in the travel industry that I didn't ask you today, but you are either excited to talk about or something that you are finding like very bullish on and be like, oh, actually, I think that in the next 12 to 24, like months, this is a good trend or something to look at?
I think a big thing that is popping up more than ever is the power of user-generated content. More companies are really realizing that you can get free social media opportunities and marketing opportunities by paying attention, tracking, and requesting the use of the UGC that's out there. People are doing your marketing for you, even when you're not really realizing it. So give inspiration on your platforms to give your followers a bit of a nudge to create that UGC, because who better to vouch for your company and the experiences that they're having than the customers themselves?
100%. I think that if there are like two categories of things where you don't have actually even as to to record things are restaurants and food and travels. Everyone record their vacations, right? So you're totally right. The content is out there. People are already doing that. And that's also like we as an agency, what we recommend all the time to brands is go and look at everyone that already tagged you, right? In organic content that was not paid, you might find your next ambassador because they already love your product, you already love your service, you already love your whatever it is. And, they can become the next people, be paid to do that professionally on a contract and everything. So I don't know if you have anything else there to recommend, like any other, suggestions on that one, or if it is something that you had that vacation had done in the past.
I would just say really keep building that relationship with your followers. Again, whether you're giving them hashtags to connect with you and share that content, or you give them the space to share their voice on what they want to see. Too many people try to put the cart before the horse when you have the target audience you want to be asking anything and everything under the sun about right before your very fingertips. And the more you listen to the pulse of what they are about, what they don't like, what they want to see more of, then your content will mirror that. And from there, your following will also continue to increase as it shows that human connection, and finding ways to really speak to people in that human way in your stories, in your captions. The more rigid and boiled down corporate talk that's put out, it gives everyone an immediate ick, and they just lose a sense of trust in that. You get that permission to be a little more comfortable and unfiltered than ever before. That's definitely something that's changed in marketing post-pandemic as well. And people are expecting brands sometimes to be a little more unhinged, making jokes, not just about their own industry, but about themselves, because what some of the greatest comics do is follow that approach in their stand-up material. And it's okay to not be perfect. People know that there are humans behind the posts, and that's okay.
I do agree. What we say all the time, and we said in the previous, episodes, even if there's business to business, business to consumer, at the end of the day, it's a people to people, right? As a person to person, right? So I like the idea of that. There are many different brands out there that are doing that, right? Taking it less than themselves a bit less seriously, and people are appreciating that, right? They are seeing like the human side, right? The story behind of a brand. So that's a really good tip. So yeah, I mean, we covered SEO, your point of view. We covered authenticity, be yourself. Try to drop a bit the corporate side and be authentic on that. So we cover many things. What is missing? I see that you have something there.
If I can leave you with one more gem, and it's one of my favorite things that I've learned and I'm continuing to learn over the years. But no matter if you're marketing something in the travel industry or you are a small business owner just wanting to get the word out about what you sell, make sure when presenting it on an ad, in your posts, on your billboards, that you are showing people your value more than anything. Not just saying, here's this thing you should buy, but here's why it can make your life easier, less stressful, better, more fun. People want to connect with a feeling, and they want to know how your product can bring that into their world. Show them that every day, and they will continue showing up for you.
I mean, great final tips to finish the episode, I think, right? It was just, the icing on the cake on that one. So thank you for sharing. I really think that it's crucial, not just for that industry, but for many industries, right? That people want to see the solution. And again, the before and after, how you're going to feel thanks to it and so on. So absolutely. Arielle, thank you so much for joining me today. I will definitely continue following, what your guys doing online, even just to check on next potential locations, right? And the best of luck also for next travels and everything that you're gonna have to cover again around the world. Something amazing to do for a living, I would say. And thank you also for sharing statistics and tips and tricks for marketers, travel influencers, and brands that are listening today. So again, thank you for joining me today on this. This was the Influence Factor by the Influencer Marketing Factory. I'll see you next week.